Hi there. This is a lawyer, and this lawyer works at a law firm as an associate. Basically, he has one job. His role at the firm is to zealously represent clients. In other words, his job is to complete legal production. He is employed to bill hours. And it's helpful to think of that one job as a hat. Now here, that same lawyer a few years later, and for some unexplained, perverse reason, he has decided to create his own law firm. The biggest difference for this lawyer is that now he is responsible for many roles and must wear many hats. Many of them are actually more important than legal production. He must still bill clients, of course, but he must also attract clients, engage clients, invoice clients, collect fees, hire, manage, and fire employees, manage vendors and contracts, and establish policy systems and procedures. In other words, law firm owners often wear a lot of hats, and for most of them, the best thing they can do is spread the work around, and the first step to firing themselves is to admit there's a problem. And it's easier to acknowledge something when you can see it. I created the hat audit to make this reality easier to see. It helps today's modern lawyers spot exactly where all those responsibilities are sitting in real time. Using an interactive law firm organizational app, you can not only see each role or hat, but you can appreciate how good or how bad those hats are spread out across the team. The process allows you to take a good look at yourself and your staff. For some law firm owners, they will clearly see for the first time ever exactly who is currently responsible for each hat, who wears the most and who wears the least. And spoiler alert, this is often surprising to them. In many cases, for the first time ever, law firm owners will see what's going on. Once the inputs are all done, the app then calculates how many hats each person is wearing. It highlights potential workload bottlenecks and shows the financial cost of having the owner perform work that should have been delegated. This information often attaches a dollar amount to the newly exposed inefficiencies, and that's valuable. Finally, the hat audit helps turn that insight into action. It does this by identifying which responsibilities should be delegated, assigned to a new hire, automated, or even outsourced. This is a simple tool, but the goals are simple. We want to remove hats from the owner. We want to build a stronger team and create a law firm that can grow without depending on one person doing everything. Now let's get into it.
First, you don't have anything. All you have is this. So you got to put in a firm name. I'm going to just put my initials. I'm going to put my name as the owner. And you save and get a link. Once you do this, you have a link. Copy this link, save it somewhere, put it to your favorites because this is yours. This is not something that anyone else can access unless they have this link. But once your link has been set up, then you get into leadership and governance. First, cost of the owner. What's your hourly rate? So you put your hourly rate here. Say it's $3.95. I'm making stuff up. All right. So the founder and owner, this is my make-believe firm. I'm going to say the founder and owner is Paul. Then the professional legal administrator or chief operating officer. This is the person that handles all the non-legal matters and has direct contact with the owner. Well, in a small firm, this is the owner of the firm. The managing partner. This would be another attorney that handles not the administrative stuff, but all of the legal matters and decisions and stuff with lawyers, paralegals, etc. So we have another lawyer, but they're not the managing partner, so I got to put Paul again. Executive assistant that supports Paul. This would be my staffy rep, number one. Executive assistant 2, this person normally supports the managing partner, but could support the COO depending on the structure. But it's all one person, so it's going to be the staffy remote rep 1 again. So I jump over here to legal matters. Who's the senior associate? We do have Mike, who's an attorney. Junior associate, we have Stephanie. Of counsel, Joey picks up our slack. Senior paralegal is Jada. Junior paralegal is Megan. Legal assistant would be Karen, and case manager is David. All right. So who's the receptionist? Well, that's Karen, who's also the legal assistant. Client care coordinator. This is the person that deals with communicating to the clients, etc. Used to be that I would do it, but now I've kind of delegated that to my junior paralegal Megan. Then billing and collections. We give that to our case management team. Now, into operations, the office manager, not to be confused with the COO, but the office manager is Karen. She's very limited in authority, and she's also in charge of the supplies. Whoever handles supplies usually reports to the office manager. The office manager usually reports to the COO. The phone vendor is Doug. Now, Doug's a vendor. He's not an employee. And Southeastern IT is who does our technology. They are also our vendor. So for here, instead of putting SEIT for technology, the COO usually handles it. In this case, that's me, Paul. Now, client support in front office, we filled out already. Marketing and sales, the intake specialist. This, sadly, is also Karen, who's our receptionist. Firm relations specialist. Now, this is someone that deals with other firms and referral partner often. This, in most cases, is the owner of the firm, unless you have someone designated to this. So I'm going to put Paul. Social media. Jada just has a flair for this, the senior paralegal. Salesperson, that's me. And our marketing vendor, Catherine. She's actually the vendor as well as the person that deals with the vendor. Okay, HR, recruiting and vetting. That's actually our senior associate, Stephanie, who happens to be Mike's wife. Or she's our junior. Anyway, but hiring is me. Onboarding is, well, it depends, but we're going to just say me because it should be the COO for anything other than legal, and it should be the managing partner or the managing partner's EA. Payroll is David. Benefits, also David. Now we get into accounting. Our CFO, we don't have a chief financial officer, and sadly, terrible job for our attorney, but with me. CPA, well, that's Marla, whose team also is our bookkeeper. Accounts payable, that is Karen. And our taxes are handled by, well, I'm paying them, but we're going to put Marla for figuring them out. So now everything filled out. Now, we can also go back and look at how many hours this is. So if I'm the founder and owner, 10 hours a week, but I'm also the PLA, and I'm also the managing partner, well, I can't be spending 40 hours a week as managing partner, 40 hours a week as PLA. So this can be hacked down. So we go into plan, and we change these each to 20 hours. Because it's kind of the same job. And the two executive assistants, they're not working 80 hours. So we make them each 20. I mean, this is just a rough guide, but it's really helpful in giving you a visual. So I've changed those to 20. For non-legal matters, Karen's our office manager. She handles supplies, but acting as office manager is not a full-time job. In fact, it's nowhere close to 40 hours. I would say she spends maybe 10 hours at most doing this. Technology, 6 hours a week. Nah, I'd say 2. If that. Phone vendor, 2 hours a week. Yeah, maybe so. IT vendor, 3 hours a week. No, but closed. You could put 2, but this is not going to be as big of an impactful thing. Senior associate, Mike, 40 hours a week, yes. Stephanie, 40 hours a week, yes. Joey, 14 hours a week, yeah, maybe. Our senior paralegal, Jada, she paralegals for 40 hours a week, yes. Megan, paralegals, a little less. We can say 30. Karen, as a legal assistant, really small part of her job, but it's a role. David, as the case manager, bump that down to 20 hours a week because he does other things. And trust me, this guy does not work more than 4 hours a week. As our receptionist, Karen, she's tethered to that front desk, but the phone doesn't ring that much. A client care coordinator, Megan, she might spend 20 hours a week doing this. And these are all defaults. You can change them however you want. Billing and collections, this is very important, but it's not 15 hours. It's more like 10. Marketing and sales, Karen does 30 hours a week for the intake. Well, the intake and reception kind of mirrors each other, but we could put this down to 15. Firm relations, Paul spends 20 hours talking to other firms. It's a very important part of our marketing. Social media, Jada does 8. As far as sales, it's not 25 hours a week, but it's 20. It's very important. And then marketing vendor, Catherine, she's a vendor, so it's not super important. As far as recruiting and hiring and onboarding and payroll and benefits, these are all probably right. As far as working as a CFO, Paul spends 8 hours doing that. Our CPA, Marla, is a vendor really, and her hours are her hours, but Karen spends 5 hours a week at least on accounts payable. So you can have plans here, but when you go into plan, like say Karen is the office manager, or better yet, let's pick one where you see my name. I am the firm relations specialist. I'm spending 20 hours a week doing this. Now, firm relations specialist, this is kind of a marketing. This is where you're talking to referral partners and stuff. This is not one of those things that, even though you don't need a bar card to do it, it's part of your CEO tasks. So if you're the owner of the firm and you're doing this, this is really okay. So we're not going to really monkey with this too much. But salesperson, 20 hours a week, this is a time sucker. If I'm doing all of the sales, it means I'm doing all the initial consults. And whether we charge for consults or we do them for free, this is never, ever the highest, best use of my time. I should be doing one of two things, working on the business or working in the business. And what I mean by that for a lawyer who owns a firm, on the business would be the firm relations specialist type stuff. Strategic, intentional, entrepreneurial things, forwarding the business forward. Or I should be getting that $395 an hour production. That's it. Salesperson, we should hire a non-attorney salesperson. And in the next 1 to 3 months. Save that to the roadmap. Okay, there's a lot of other things you do, and you can spend as much time or as little time as you want in this. But what I'm getting at is this creates a nice heat map to kind of show you, because the premise of this whole thing is that there's about 3 dozen jobs in every law firm. And most of the smaller law firms, especially the ones that I work with, are way fewer than that. So while we're doing the heat map, all these jobs are being done. They're just different roles worn by different people. That's why it's called the hat audit, right? It's different hats being worn. So if you look at it, Paul, the owner, is wearing 9 hats. 6 of them are considered admin tasks. That's 108 hours a week. And remember, we went in and lowered a lot of those numbers. 108 hours a week. This is why owners of law firms are so freaking stressed. This is why they don't take vacations. This is why they doubt themselves for opening a business. Now, we have 2 admin people who are yellow. They're not red, but they're getting there. Karen's wearing 6 hats and theoretically working 68 hours a week. David wearing 4 hats, but he's only working 36 hours a week. It's possible there can be some equitable distribution between those two. Marla's really a vendor, but look at Megan. she's wearing two hats. She's a paralegal. Jada, two hats, paralegal. Stephanie's a lawyer wearing two hats. We have a staffy rep wearing two hats. We have our senior associate wearing one, our counsel wearing one, marketing vendor. The rest of these are vendors. So the options to spread hats obviously are Karen and David, but they are also here with Megan, Jada, Stephanie, the remote rep. And that's usually the biggest opportunity, by the way, because it's the most inexpensive way to add a person, but you've got to figure out what hats you're going to give to that person. But this just makes it a lot easier to see. Now, the outputs are interesting because you can take all this information, the way it looks here, and you can download it as data in a spreadsheet, click in the CSV, or you can make a PDF of it. Pretty pictures. This picture, everything's there just like you see it here. It prints it on white, so you don't use all your ink if you print it, but it's a PDF. And then this one is probably what most people like, and this the most. The print org chart. This, once this is printed, I can go find it. Here it is. Okay, it prints it as an image, and here we go. Here's our organizational chart. Now, how nice is this? This shows the senior associate. The senior associate is reporting directly to the CEO, really reports to the managing partner, but the managing partner CEO in this case is the same person. Here are the executive assistants, one for the founder, one for the managing partner. You can see all three of these are the same person. Now, Paul, my name, is in red and yellow. It looks like McDonald's, doesn't it? Anyway, you can see I'm spread out all over here. And down here, the closer you are to the bottom, the fewer mentions you should have of, or you shouldn't see the founder's name. So when you're looking at things to delegate, you can look down here. So oftentimes the owner sets a goal. Okay, let's say it's August, and we want to get ourselves down from, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 roles. We want to get it down to 5. I think 5 is manageable. So it's the 8th month, really. It's 9, 10, 11, 12. We only need to fire ourselves from 1 role every month. Well, how do we do that? Well, we already talked about hiring a non-attorney salesperson. But what are the options? Technology. Is there someone on our team that can help manage the IT vendor? That's an easy one to offboard. So we could offboard the technology there. We could offboard the salesperson. Onboarding and hiring, those two things go together. This might be an HR staff. Now you can get staffy places these, but so does there are also vendors, software as a service. So that's 4 we could do. Firm relations specialist. I like this role for the owner. More so than, say, an intake specialist, but the CFO, that's probably the target. Now, maybe we can bring Marla in as an employee, not just a vendor, for like a fractional CFO, or maybe we can hire a fractional CFO. But those are probably the biggest ones that we can target to get us down to the 4 or 5 that we want. But you make a plan, and you make a plan based on being able to see it. So this is very helpful because we can audit the amount of hats we have. We can see it in this visual. Of course, we can see it here in the heat map. But sometimes you'll find that you're working way too hard. I've seen this with 17 and up to 20 hats on the owner, and nobody with more than 2. A lot of people with 1 who get paid a lot of money, and they're completely admin. You need to figure out who does what by when, and who's got bandwidth and who doesn't. That's the beauty of the hat audit.